I remember finishing the song to send it off to get mixed and having a bit of a freak out moment. Mark, our producer, and our A&R guy at the time was in the room. We were playing the final version of the song. I was like, is it a bit ridiculous? It's so big. I was like, is it a bit stupid and embarrassing? And I was almost trying to shut it down, and they both were like, stop it, stop it.
Wonderful Bastille!
Does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like you've been here before?
So from your understanding, what are we about to talk about?
We're about to talk about what it was like to write and release Pompeii, which was, I guess, internationally our first single, and the way that it completely changed all of our lives and means that, like, nearly 10 years later, I've still got a job making songs, sort of, I hope. I'd been making songs as a teenager, but I was very kind of shy and self-conscious. I had no aspirations to take it anywhere. I didn't want to play in front of anyone else. It was genuinely just a thing I did for myself. When I went off to university in Leeds, my mates heard some of this music that I'd recorded, and then someone entered me into this competition where every year 10 artists would win this thing. It sort of peaked with a gig at a proper venue that you had to sell tickets for. I had to drink quite a lot to have the courage to get on stage, and it was an absolute nightmare. I think I was kind of so wrapped up in what other people thought. I wish I'd been able just to sort of like chill out a bit. I'd left university, so I'd moved home with my mum and dad. And I remember working on Pompeii there, just in my old bedroom, which is kind of weird.
When he's starting at square one, he writes the song of his life.
On one level, it's obviously about the kind of victims of the volcano eruption. All of these people were kind of frozen in the poses in which they died. And for some reason, my brain at the time drew a line between that and the feeling of going nowhere that I felt in my own life. So it became about that sort of frustrated feeling of not really knowing what's going to happen and where your life is going to go. I didn't come up through any kind of like songwriting training or musical training at all. Like, it was never particularly calculated, you know. I was never thinking this is how a song must be. It's just what came naturally and what felt like it fitted that form.
When you talk about pop cliches, 2011, 2012, 2013, it felt like every musical act on the radio had to have a dubstep breakdown. Years later, you can hear that song and you're like, oh yeah, that's 2012. But Bastille never rocked the dubstep breakdown. With Pompeii, it's kind of hard to pinpoint what year it was made.
If you're looking back and trying to analyze why it did well, that's probably why. I think a combination of that, funny synth stabs, big epic drums and tom hits, a real bass line, my really weird voice that sticks out because it doesn't sound conventional at all, and this huge chant. I remember with the chant, the eto bit, I think initially it was like a keyboard riff and I wanted it to be a guitar riff, but I can't play guitar. So yeah, there was like limitations to what I could do by myself. I guess the tension in me as a weird, self-loathing, self-conscious person is to make your own music and put it out innately comes with having to sort of push yourself as a person or what you do to other people, which I guess always sat quite weirdly with me. I just liked the idea of being in a band and also being able to share it with other people and draw on other people's ideas and thoughts and creativity and to be on stage as a group. We all met in London kind of through friends and through music quite a few years ago, and we properly started the band at the end of 2010 and locked ourselves away practicing for a bit and then started releasing singles on vinyl and mixtapes and EPs and just played a lot of gigs. The thing to aim towards was probably to get a record deal. We played loads of tiny little venues, and then at the same time we were putting out songs and had the kind of gratification of getting to watch the music get shared online and also start playing shows up and down the country. A manager came on board and we started working with Mark, who we've done literally everything with, and he had a little studio in South London as well.
The studio wasn't a particularly nice place.
We sort of record and rehearse in like grey parts of London that aren't particularly pretty.
A windowless basement, like in this sort of like complex of other windowless basements.
I think back to that time and I think of like it being really late at night and just trying to figure out how to play these songs.
When Dan first brought Pompeii to us, I remember kind of playing it and we were running through it. It was like, oh yeah, actually, like, it's quite, I don't know, like it's all right.
I think I played it to a friend at some point and she was like, yeah, it's fine. I don't think anyone we worked with thought like, yes, that's it.
Anyone claiming that they had picked that out as the hit is a liar.
You know, just because it sounded epic didn't necessarily mean it sounded like it was going to be successful, because we had no concept of what that meant. But then we were off playing it in like tiny little toilet venues around the UK.
We were rehearsing before a show, and then Dan was like, should we play it tonight? And we were like, that's nuts. And we're like, actually, yeah, why not? Like, we'll give it a shot. And then we spoke to our manager, and she was like, there is no way you're playing this song tonight. That's insane. And then I remember us getting to the gig. We did a few songs, and Dan, he was just kind of like, oh, this is a new one. This is called Pompeii. And I remember our manager, you just heard us sort of out in the crowd, and she was like, bastards.
That was really surreal. We were like, oh, this is working.
It was completely different, but it was simple enough and catchy enough to work.
We signed a record deal at the end of 2011. Over the course of 2012, we were releasing singles and EPs and growing our fan base, playing bigger gigs.
Even though it was rock, it was danceable. So they just found like the perfect blend of everything where they were still respected as a rock band, but they were loved on pop radio.
In the UK, there's a radio station called Radio 1 who support new artists, and we were kind of working our way up the playlist.
The best thing that happened was when Radio 1 started to play Bastille in general, because it's so hard to get on radio, and particularly in the UK compared to America.
And then that led us into 2013, which is when Pompeii came out, I think first week of the year, and it got played on Radio 1, and this song was suddenly everywhere.
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes,
I can't believe how many people were there. I don't believe that many people care about it, and they were amazing. It was weird.
So Pompeii blew up, and suddenly it was in a chart battle with Justin Timberlake, and we lost out to Mirrors, but we were number 2 in the charts, and then the next week our album came out and it went straight to number 1, and it sold like a ridiculous amount. Pompeii just didn't go away. That first year, 2013, it was the album being big and just kind of us chasing Pompeii all over Europe, and then it's massive in Australia. We're like, what the hell, Australia?
Then all of a sudden, Pompeii was like, right, like now you're going out to America for a few months.
When a band comes from overseas, a band that might be slightly different, like what lane do they fit in?
Sometimes it's confusing being a UK band that breaks in the US.
It is, yeah. There's a lot of like weird and wonderful windy roots.
Revisits and stuff, yeah.
So are you confused right now? I have no idea what you just said.
I don't know what just happened.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I cannot believe it's happening.
You hear kind of all the kind of horror stories of UK bands going over there and just like how difficult it is, and it was, you know, it's huge, and we just aren't used to it as a band growing up in the UK.
Got my keyboards. We've got all of our.
Right. That's for the whole tour.
Yeah.
That's all you brought.
This is all the instruments that we brought. We're fully prepared. We're fully prepared.
All these cases are just literally...
We have arrived in America.
We've gotten over there, and everyone's really excited, and then Dan's voice was wiped.
When you lose your voice in America.
Dan had tonsillitis or lost his voice on that very first show. He fought through for the first like half of the show, which is the worst thing to do. He just tore his voice apart. And then everyone else helped us sing the last few songs, and it was crazy.
Tell us what the feeling is like to finally break as an artist.
I don't know if there is really a point at which you break or anything, and I think we're probably the worst people to answer that question. So I don't know what the feeling is. I also don't know if we've broken. I hope we don't break.
As 2013 was finishing, we signed with a label in the States. They started testing Pompeii in the US.
So I hear Pompeii, December of 2013, and then a month or so later, they're playing on SNL.
Which was terrifying.
Being introduced by Leonardo DiCaprio. It doesn't get any bigger than that.
It was really fun to be there. It was really exciting, and getting to watch the sketches and the rehearsals and stuff was amazing. And a really welcome distraction, but I was absolutely terrified, particularly because in the week leading up to it, people kept saying, you know, it's a really big deal. I was like,
We get it.
"Why, we get it." But yeah, it was fun. We especially enjoyed the after party a bit too much.
I think once you get on SNL, it makes you a next level act.
It just didn't really stop, the touring. Yeah, I think they kind of just looped America twice with the venues getting bigger. When Dan first started, he wouldn't even face forwards on stage. He was normally like glued to the keyboard side on. So then fast forwarding to jumping up and down to Pompeii was a pretty big jump forward.
I think that Pompeii kind of transported us. It was just a lot quicker. It was like kind of going through a portal, and it was like, right, where you want to get to, you're here now. And it's happened like this, and you now just have to kind of carry on from this point that this song has transported you to.
In the US, if a song gets properly played at pop radio, it really properly seeps into the consciousness. It's on sports games, it's on TV shows, suddenly it's in video games, in film trailers. Like, it was in Glee, I think, at one point as well.
In the UK, you'll botch a single out, and then maybe the next month you'll have another one, and it's quite a quick turnaround. Whereas in America, your music just gets played like for a lot longer. And you know, once people hear a song enough, whether they like it or not, just that familiarity is like, oh, I guess I like it, which I think was like kind of part of it.
It recently, I think, end of last year, hit 1 billion streams, which is completely incomprehensible because it's kind of nuts when like a new song hits 1 billion streams that's a huge hit. And the idea that this was big, you know, however many years ago, it's just nice to see that the song has continued to grow and grow and grow. It's been like a thing on TikTok recently, which is just awesome.
But if you close your eyes,
Songs like Pompeii don't necessarily age as much as other things just because they sound so unique at the time, and it still kind of sounds as different now as it did then.
It doesn't blow my mind that Pompeii is still a big song, but it did kind of blow my mind recently because I was singing the song, and then my son, who is 9 years old, he started singing along with me. And I thought to myself, like, how do you know this song? It's the testament to what a good song it is because it has like that classic element to it, like it feels timeless.
Some of our music is really famous, but we're not that famous as people. So, you know, our lives feel, despite being in a band and touring and everything, relatively normal. I like to go backpacking with friends every year. I had this weird experience where I found myself at the top of a volcano. There was a Dutch guy, there was an Israeli guy, and there was a Guatemalan guide. And eventually the Dutch guy was like, so you said you make music? And I was like, well, I guess we've had some songs on the radio. And the Dutch guy was like, try me, like, what is it? And I was like, there's a song called Pompeii. He like sort of didn't believe me. And then was like, we're literally on a volcano and you're the volcano song guy. And he was like cracking up. And then the Israeli guy was like, oh my God, we had that song at our wedding 2 weeks ago. And I was like, what the f? And the Guatemalan guy that didn't speak any English was like, hey, and started singing along to the song. It sounds totally made up, but I was literally stuck at the top of a volcano in Guatemala with a Dutch guy, an Israeli guy, and a Guatemalan guy who all knew the song for very different reasons, but had no idea who I was. As someone that doesn't celebrate moments, that was a real nice moment in terms of like, A, it's hilarious, and B, it means, you know, we somehow succeeded in making music that people know, but not having to be dependent on us as people.
Bastille's legacy is a big pop rock band that has a hit single that they can play until the end of time, and that song will outlive the band.
It's not like a Christmas song, but you know, like the songs that are just always there. For it to be even half as big as it is now in another 10 years, I'd be more than happy with that.
A lot of people over the years have asked us if we're bored of it, or if we resent it, or, you know, have come to hate that song, and I just feel massively grateful for it. Like, it's really cheesy, but it was so uncalculated, it was so unthought out. You know, we were never trying to write a hit. It just is one of those like wonderful little accidents that completely changed our lives.
but if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all?
I remember when our manager called and was like, you're nominated for 2 Grammys. Everything like that came through, we were like, what? Us?
How am I gonna be an optimist about this?
It's just completely mad. This is a song that I wrote by myself in my bedroom.
Does it almost feel like nothing changed at all?
It was in the charts alongside songs written by like 10, 15 people with like dozens of producers, and I was like, me and my mates made this. This is f***ing insane.